A letter to you from Bruce Springsteen and Midnight Oil's Forgotten Years. Nothing forgotten as the National Australia Bank puts down its findings into the agriculture circumstances. Its latest commodity index update paints a rosy picture. It's similar to the one that we brought to you on Flow News 24 from Rabobank a couple of weeks back. In their forecast, they made some specific predictions with commodities that I think are going to be very interesting for you to catch up on, particularly if you are in a rural area and benefiting from the farming and agricultural products that we produce. This is essentially what the NAB has put, that despite the global challenges of 2020, Australian agriculture had a generally very good run, driven by strong prices for many but not all commodities and much better seasonal conditions. And while trade issues with China have hurt some sectors, NAB says the reality is that Australian agriculture is in its strongest position in years. And one of the prospects that it puts together for its 2021, it states that overall the sense is that 2021 should bring another solid year, although it is likely that a appreciating Australian dollar, that is one that is getting more value against the greenback, and that the very frothy livestock prices will see some downward pressure on the NAB Rural Commodities Index in the back half of 2021. And this should, however, be seen in context. Cattle prices are currently at record highs, and the Rural Commodities Index hit a record high in April last year, although it's since fallen a little. Prices for most commodities, with some exceptions, should be supportive of good producer returns throughout 2021. The NAB highlighted the Chinese trade barriers a feature of 2020, saying their contribution, escalation, and then therefore the de-escalation are a key issue for Australian farmers in 2021. And looking at seasonal conditions, the NAB observed that they've been generally wetter than average in the southeast as well as the northern part of Australia. They've reflected that the La Nina that Australia had entered into last year is still with us. However, large areas of Queensland remain drier than average, as does much of Western Australia, and the Bureau of Meteorology expects that La Nina is going to continue to weaken, although the seasonal outlook for the next 3 months is wetter than average for SA, Victoria and New South Wales, which is where you're hearing these reports on Flow FM. And subsoil moisture levels in much of Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia should be enough to give the 21-22 winter crop a fighting start, and paddock feed levels remain anecdotally very good in many regions. And overall, NAB's Rural Commodity Index fell 1.7% in December 2020, but rose 4.2% in January 2021 on the month-on-month basis. The index is now 7.3% higher than at the same time last year. Gee, that's good news, isn't it? Cattle prices are likely to be a major driver of what's happening here, and we continue to watch grain prices. They have been heading south, with eastern states wheat futures down almost 20% over the year, but largely reflected in the end of domestic premiums as drought-induced supply shortages and feed demand ended. So, look, this is really interesting stuff, isn't it? And I'm sure that you can get a bit more context to this if you go to the Flow News 24 article. We've posted it for you under the Agriculture tab on that webpage. Interesting stuff from the NAB report as comparing to the Rabo one from late January. It is a rosy future, although it's only as good, I guess, as the next shower of rain. But talking to one manufacturer in Warwick Nabil over at Smale Farm Equipment, and they said it's great that there is that subsoil moisture to begin the season. Canola is likely to be of interest to many of those that are planning their grain and their pulses for this year.